Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We interview local prominent professionals here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex on what? Well, of course, their area of expertise. I'm the host of the show, Matt Cather. Joining me on today's Ask the Experts, it's Josh Strittmatter. It's great to have him on the show again. Josh Strittmatter is the founder and president of Strittmatter Wealth Management Group, a registered investment advisor located in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. Josh is a certified financial planner and fiduciary that's been practicing since 2003 here in the DFW. His firm specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, and investment management, and all information discussed in today's program is meant to be for educational purposes only. And for more information, including key disclosures, please visit their website at strittmatterwealth.com. Let me spell that out for you, folks. It's STRITTMATTER wealth.com. Good morning, Josh. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
Doing wonderful. Very excited to talk to you today. I know we always have a really great show, educational as always. And before we get to that, though, Josh, I know that you always love to educate and you're always teaching classes as well, writing articles. So why don't you tell our listeners what you have for them today, sir?
Matt, I am always excited to talk about what we do from an education standpoint, and we've been teaching classes at several colleges in the area for over a decade now. So if you're interested in learning more about retirement planning or real estate investing, just go to our website to sign up. Something else I'm excited about is our report titled The Top 10 Retirement Mistakes to Avoid This Year. And, Matt, that's a great resource for people who are getting ready to retire, just looking for some great tips and some things that they should avoid.
Yeah, and folks, all you need to do today to request this resource is rather simple, and you got a couple options. Go to strittmatterwealth.com. You click on Resources and Free Report at strittmatterwealth.com. Click on Resources and Free Report. You can also email them at info@strittmatterwealth.com. That's info@strittmatterwealth.com. Give them a call. They'd love to hear from you. It's 817-210-3444. It's 817-210-3444. And all my texters out there, we don't forget about you. It's text 1190 AM to phone number 44222. Just text 1190 AM to phone number 44222. All right, Josh, I know this week you've geared your show around a theme. Why don't you tell our listeners more about the theme for this week?
Matt, this week's theme is digital asset estate planning. These are some really good questions that we've received around digital asset estate planning.
All right, fantastic. You heard him. The topic of discussion this week is digital asset estate planning. Well, we got a lot of information to cover on today's show, so let's not wait any further. Let's jump right into things. And Josh, start off with the first question of the day. It's coming from Alberto in Richland Hills. Alberto was wondering, what are considered digital assets and why should I care?
So, Alberto, a digital asset can be a wide variety of electronic records and files that are stored online, on your mobile devices, or your phones, on your personal computers. And really, it's an asset that is of importance to you that you would want to pass on in case something happened to you. And so examples of these include things like email accounts, social media accounts. I think about photos, online chat room accounts, cell phone apps, and basically photos on your cell phone, different information that you have on your cell phone. Loyalty programs is another example of this. Frequent flyer miles accounts. And then anything else that has an account that's digitally set up for you so that you don't receive statements, you receive digital statements. Those are all examples of digital assets.
Let's go and build a little bit off that as well. This one's from Warren in Arlington. Warren was wondering, why is estate planning for digital assets important?
So, Warren, I think that this is important because often this is something that people don't think about when they're creating their estate plan. And in the absence of planning for this, loved ones, friends may not have access to accounts that they would need to be able to access in order to do things like pay bills, or have access to family photos, videos that you've saved, and you know, those precious memories that you would like to pass on. So we've become a digital society, and because of that, a lot of our assets are now stored digitally. So it's important to plan for the transfer of those digital assets when you're preparing your estate plan.
Yeah, this is a really good topic to discuss because we're all in that situation with digital assets. So I really like this conversation we're going to have today. This is good.
Yeah.
Let's continue along, though, Josh. This one's coming from Carrie in Saginaw. Carrie asked, how is estate planning for digital assets different from estate planning for traditional assets? Great question.
Sure, Kerry. So, it's a little bit challenging today because it's so new, but a lot of your digital assets are subject to accounts that have basically user agreements between the company and the user. And so they can have their own basically guidelines or rules that you have to follow to be able to transfer that upon your death. And so some vendors out there have put in place this different estate planning transfer rules. Some have not. And so it's important for you to know what those rules are. And then, in the case of like a Facebook as an example, you can go in and actually name somebody. Other accounts may not have that feature. So that's where actually writing down what your wishes are in advance, and then also following the user agreements for each of the vendors, the online vendors, will be important for you.
Remember, folks, we're talking with Josh Strip Matter Wealth Management Group. If you want to reach out to him, first you can find him online at stripmatterwealth.com. That's stripmatterwealth.com. The phone number to reach the fine folks over there, well, it's 817-210-3444. That's 817-210-3444. Digital asset estate planning is a topic of conversation today. Next question's coming from Johnny in Fort Worth. And, of course, reminder, if you don't know, you should. Downtown Fort Worth, Texas is where you can find the office of Strip Matter Wealth. It is located in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. Johnny asked, what are some obstacles you have seen people run into when trying to access a deceased individual's online information, Josh?
So, Johnny, from what I have seen, we have clients that pass away every year, unfortunately, and we try to help them through that process of transferring the estate. They're usually working in conjunction with their attorneys, but typically it's things like passwords. So a family member doesn't have access to your passwords. And one of the things that I always try to counsel clients on is that it's important to, have passwords written down somewhere. Now, the disadvantage of that is that obviously you don't want somebody to be able to access that is going to use that maliciously. But one of the tools that we use is a password manager. A tool that we use in my office is called RoboForm, and you have one main password that you have to remember, and then all of the passwords are saved for all the different sites that you go to, so that you don't even have to type in the passwords or remember the passwords. And in fact, it generates the passwords for you. So they're smart passwords. They're a bunch of letters and numbers that you would never remember. So you just have to remember your main password, and from that, you can actually have a backup person that would have access to that in the event of your death from that password manager. And there's different softwares out there. RoboForm is just the one that we chose to use. That's a key thing that I again, would recommend people start using a password manager so that you can just remember one password moving forward. And again, you can start using smart passwords. Keep in mind, too, something that we've talked about with clients is that if you own crypto or NFTs, so these are the crypto assets that a lot of people are investing into, often those are stored in a crypto wallet. And that would require a password and a private key to get access to. And so if nobody knows that but you, there's no more crypto. So you've got to make sure that you have given that information to somebody, because you would not be able to access it. Also think about data encryption as well. So a lot of information is encrypted, meaning it's basically scrambled. The information is scrambled and then becomes unencrypted whenever you provide a password. And so things to think about there is basically how you've set up your encryption process with that data and passing that information on so that somebody can access to it. Keep in mind there's criminal laws that prohibit unauthorized access to computer systems and private personal data. So because of that, you may need to have, again, a plan written down of who you want to have access to that information upon your death or incapacitation. And so I think of that just the same as your personal estate plan, is that you're creating a digital estate plan that you've written down who would inherit and who would have access. And then also keep in mind data privacy laws as well, because sometimes it will prohibit somebody from getting access to something who has no written authority to do so. So again, the takeaway with all of this is, become smarter about how you use digital assets, use things like password managers, and then make sure you write down who would have access upon your death or incapacitation.
We'll do one more question before we take a quick break, Josh. It's coming out of Fort Worth as well. This one's from Brent. Brent asks, well, how can I protect my digital assets?
Brent, that's a great question, and there are certainly lots of ways to protect your digital assets. And the first thing that I would do is I would make a list of all of my digital assets. So everything that you own, all of the different accounts that you own, I would make a list of those. And, you can do that on paper. You can do that on a spreadsheet. I'm a big Google spreadsheet kind of guy, so I make my list on Google Sheets. And that way, that's something I can easily access on my phone, and I can add to it when I need to. Next, I would write down next to all of those assets what you would like to see happen with those assets. So would you want them to continue upon your death or incapacitation? Would you want them shut down? Would you want them to turn into a memorial account? And that's kind of a trendy phrase right now is memorial accounts, and especially where you see that with like Facebook, where people have passed away and they leave those Facebook accounts open, and they actually allow family members to manage that account, and that way people can post to that account. And I've seen that with lots of people that I know that have passed away, where those accounts are still open, and I see people that post to their accounts as well. So again, what do you want to see happen with those digital assets? And then I would begin to plan and research which of those assets have individual use agreements and what those are. And again, is what do I need to do to make sure that especially if they're important to me, that I've got the proper information input into their user agreement or whatever it is, their beneficiary form, if they have a beneficiary form, so that it is indeed filled out and set up. From the estate planning perspective, I think about, again, having a part of your overall estate plan, having a digital asset estate plan. So that's writing down who would be able to inherit those assets, who would be able to make decisions on those assets. And a lot of estate planning attorneys these days will have that as part of their overall estate planning offering for you. Something that also that comes up is now with the digital assets are cryptocurrencies, as I was talking about, and the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens. This is all new areas, and so especially with the cryptocurrency, a lot of people will hold those on a website rather than their own wallet. And that with the website, that's where again you need to follow their user agreement. But if you have a wallet, which is essentially just a physical, looks like a flash drive, Matt, if you've seen one.
Okay.
You would need to, again, obviously have it written down what the passcode is to get into that, because it'll often have a key to get into it. And again, if you're talking about thousands of dollars or more, I would seriously think about how you're going to protect that from being lost if something were to happen to you. So those are some of the strategies that I think you can take advantage of. But I think, again, it's really just planning in advance, writing it down, and then just designating the people who you want to take over.
Folks, we got to take a quick break here on Ask the Experts. We're talking with Josh Strittmatter today in regards to digital asset estate planning. We still got a lot of information to cover, so stay tuned. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back on the other side of things. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. Welcome back to the show, folks. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We're talking with Josh Strittmatter of Strittmatter Wealth Management Group. Always a pleasure having him on Ask the Experts. Before we get back to questions with Josh, real quick, stripmatterwealth.com is the website you can find him at. That's stripmatterwealth.com. The phone number is 817-210-3444. It's 817-210-3444. They'd love to hear from you. Even if you just got some questions, give them a call. It's 817-210-3444. Digital asset estate planning is the topic of conversation today. We're going to jump right back into where we left off. Next question's coming out of Euless from Lola. Lola was wondering, well, what is a digital will executor, Josh?
So, Lola, a digital will executor is a person that you name in your will to manage your digital property after you pass away. They're similar to an executor of a will who distributes your estate, but they just focus on digital assets. And so, again, this is a new part of estate planning that basically focuses on the distribution of the digital assets.
All right, this one's coming out of Irving from Sheila. Sheila was wondering, Josh, how is a digital executor different from a will executor?
A digital executor is different from a will executor in that the digital executor only manages digital assets according to your will. Again, the executor of a will does a whole lot of things. They value the estate, they collect all of the assets, and then they distribute the estate, and then they close the estate. So it's a much heftier job than what the digital executor would do. But the digital executor, similar idea, though, is to basically pass those assets to the next whoever do inherit them, and that's the difference.
And yet again, we're having a good conversation today, Josh. I always appreciate you coming on the show, giving us a lot to take in, but you do a good job breaking it down for us.
Thank you.
Of course, today's theme of the show is digital asset estate planning with Josh Stripmatter. We got a couple more questions before we finish up on today's show. Velma from Weatherford was wondering, what are other duties does a digital executor have beyond distribution, Josh?
Well, so in your will, you define what powers and responsibilities you want your digital executor to have. And this can include things like archiving files, such as like a photo or videos or documents, closing accounts and subscriptions, closing social media accounts, deleting files and erasing hard drives, using online accounts to continue services or pay bills, and then informing online friends of passing. So those are some of the things in researching basically what your executor would do.
Remember, folks, the number to reach out to the ladies and gentlemen at Strip Matter Wealth Management Group is 817-210-3444. It's 817-210-3444. The website is stripmatterwealth.com. That's stripmatterwealth.com. Plenty of information on there, and if you want to reach out to them, don't hesitate, please. They'd love to hear from you. Martin in Hurst was wondering, how can I make my estate plan digitally savvy?
Martin, you can be digitally savvy by doing these four things. Number one, make a list of all your digital assets, and with that list, write down what you want to happen to those digital assets. Number two is understand what you own, and so researching what type of user agreements there are, what type of transferability is allowed for it is important. And then once you understand that, back up your data, store it in the cloud. So the cloud is basically the place where we can put all of our information that's not on our hard drive and on our computer. Personally, there's lots of choices that are available to you, Martin, but I use Google Drive as a place to basically store a lot of my information, and I have a paperless life. So I have a scanner that I keep at my house and at my office, and it's a Fujitsu ScanSnap that is a very fast scanner, and so all my documents are scanned in and they're stored digitally. I would tell you that, again, moving to a paperless way of doing business or a way of storing your documents is very easy to give access to family members, because I can simply just share a file or a folder with somebody. And that's also an easy way to transfer assets. But lastly, provide consent in legal documents. So again, you would want to name that person who you would want to control those assets upon your death or incapacitation. And so, again, thinking of that in advance and making sure that that's written down. And that's what I would do.
All right, Josh, we got one more question before we wrap things up on today's Ask the Experts. It's coming from Angel in Dallas. Angel asks, well, how can Strip Matter Wealth help me with estate planning for my digital assets, sir?
Well, So, Angel, as I've mentioned several times on this show, we do comprehensive financial planning, and part of that is estate planning with our clients. And so through that process, we have a questionnaire that we walk you through to help you to think about things like digital assets, as well as who you want to make decisions on your behalf in case of death or incapacitation. And then we work with several attorneys in the area to basically help you get those documents in place, those legal documents in place. And the end result is that you have a solid estate plan, and, you can rest assured that that's put in place for yourself. And then the other thing that we do is we help our clients to review those from time to time. And so I typically tell clients, pull those out every 3 to 5 years and really check on them to see if anything has changed. And especially with the digital assets, that's something you probably would want to review on an ongoing basis. But I think overall, my goal as a financial planner is to make sure that you have your plan in place, that it's well thought out, and that it's updated from time to time as things change. And so that's what our objective is, and that's how we can help you, Angel.
Josh, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions today. But before we close out the show, do you have any closing remarks for our listeners out there?
Always. Matt, I want to thank our listeners for their great questions and for tuning in today. Also want to invite them to sign up for our financial education classes, or they're just welcome to schedule a complimentary consultation. And what that looks like is a 1 to 2 hour meeting in our office or over Zoom, where we talk about your goals and objectives and really help you to begin to formulate a plan to achieve them. Also want to encourage our listeners to download a free report titled The Top 10 Retirement Mistakes to Avoid This Year. Matt, as I've mentioned, that's just a great resource for people who are getting ready to retire and just need some really good tips on what they should be doing, what they should be avoiding, and you can tell them how to get it.
Of course, and to get this information, folks, you just go to stripmatterwealth.com. You click on Resources and Free Report. Remember, it's stripmatterwealth.com. Click on Resources and Free Report. You can email them at info@stripmatterwealth.com. That's info@stripmatterwealth.com. You can give them a call. They'd love to hear from you. It's 817-210-3444. That's 817-210-3444. And if you want to text, they're also open to that. You got an option to do that. You could text 1190 a.m. to phone number 44222. Just text 1190 a.m. to phone number 44222. Now, Josh, another show in the books here on Ask the Expert. It's always a pleasure having you on, sir.
Thank you, Matt.
Of course. Thanks again for a great show. You've been listening to Josh Stripmatter, owner of Stripmatter Wealth Management Group, located in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. Josh is a certified financial planner and fiduciary, and his firm specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, and investment management. If you'd like to ask him questions directly, just email him at info@stripmatterwealth.com or give him a call, 817-210-3444. That's 817-210-3444. Another fantastic show in the books here on Ask the Experts with Josh Stripmatter. Today was about digital asset estate planning. A lot to cover, and we got through it, and it was very educational. I really enjoyed this show. Hope you did too. We'll do it again with him next week on Ask the Experts. This has been another edition of Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190.